Mr. Frank, should Brett Kavanaugh be confirmed to the U.S. Supreme Court?
The allegations are serious and need to be considered, and he's entitled to a fair hearing.
Mr. Markley.
I've had to vote on such decisions many times. There's a lot of factors to be brought into play on. Purely as a jurist, I would be for him, but these other allegations have to be heard out.
Mrs. Beisowitz.
I wouldn't support him. He doesn't support Roe versus Wade. He wants to roll that back, which is important for Connecticut to keep.
This is one of the things you cannot be prepared for as you run for office, and those are the other issues that don't necessarily impact your job, but you're going to be asked about them. And Bob Stefanowski decided he was going to take a pass on that question, and Ned Lamont, of course, did weigh in and called him out on it. Did Mr. Stefanowski do the right thing by saying he wasn't going to answer it?
I don't think that that's really a topic that is relevant in the people of Connecticut deciding who should be their next governor. I think what Bob has been very focused on is saying, we have a crisis in this state. We have people who are literally being kicked out of their own homes, and he wants the discussion to be focused on that without any other distractions. The track record of the last 8 years, he is indefensible. And so that's where the focus of the discussion should be.
Is there some hypocrisy here among Democrats, Mayor Ganim, in the fact that they're all calling out Judge Kavanaugh for these allegations of sexual misconduct, yet they stand behind Keith Ellison, who's the chairman of the DNC, facing very serious abuse allegations. They've never accused Bill Clinton, criticized Bill Clinton for these allegations that he faced.
The U.S. Supreme Court, this is the nominee of the U.S. Supreme Court at a time when partisanship seems to be just so divisive in Washington, and you've got a swing vote on critical issues. Susan mentioned it, whether it's Roe versus Wade potentially or others. So I think it's important. I think it's very important. And frankly, I think it was devastating and disappointing that Bob sidestepped that issue. You're going to be governor of the state. You want to be governor of the state of Connecticut, and not say I'll pass on something as critically important as a question like that that's front and center on the news. So I thought that was very disappointing. I think a lot of people took a second look and said, wait a minute. This sounds like a guy all he wants to talk about is one issue, one issue, one issue. When as governor, you have to deal with so many, and people look to you for leadership, and that was not leadership.
I think what they're looking for, though, is leadership of the state of Connecticut, and having somebody who's laser focused on that issue. And because the track record here is so bad, one of the moments in the debate that I found most noteworthy was in the rapid fire section when you asked what letter grade would you give to Governor Malloy when Ned Lamont gave him an F. That to me was astonishing. Now, I would give him an F. Bob Stefanowski gave him an F. Surprisingly, Oz Griebel actually gave him the highest rating at a C+. But his job has been terrible. His approval rating is 15%. At that level, I think you have family members that no longer support you. And that really is what is on the minds of voters here today. We have other people on the ballot that they can vote for that's related to what's happening in Washington. But what's happening here in Connecticut is devastating, and we need somebody who's focused on that as our next governor.
You both have different skill sets than the people who ended up winning the nominations, and now you're going to be helping them be elected in the fall. What will your role be in the Lamont campaign, and what do you bring to them?
You know, if there's a role, I mean, mayor of the largest city, I've talked about, and we're out there as local leaders, other mayors as well, talking about the challenges Connecticut faces and how it impacts not just people in every city and town, but how those decisions will impact people that are in the cities with the greatest concentration and greatest needs. We want a commitment to continue good quality of education. We'd like to see, as Ned talks about, some sensitivity towards high property taxes in a way to hold them down or cut them. Support for things like the continued support for the Affordable Care Act. So I'll be out there doing whatever we can, but I think at the end of the day, it's going to be getting voters to come out and vote. Turnout's going to be critical. Getting people to come out and recognize that this election is important. It's not about the past or who the last governor was. It's about the future. It's about our collective future. I think Ned's done a good job of that, and I think there's a strong contrast there. So we'll continue to push for that between now and November.
And Mr. Stemerman, how will you be helping?
I think there are three things. The first is in helping Bob and our whole ticket win. For Bob, he's new on the political scene, and so when people get to see him, when they hear his message, they hear that he's grown up in New Haven, his story is the American dream. His father worked for the telephone company, went to public schools, went to Fairfield, worked at GE, and now he has, with a successful business career, he's looking to turn around the state. They like that message. They also like his message that it's going to be change from this terrible environment we've had, and that he's going to cut taxes. So the key thing is to help him make sure that he gets out, gets his message amplified, gets the resources to get it on television. The second is with policy. So whomever is going to be our next governor is going to face this crisis of a budget crisis. I had an op-ed published in the Hartford Courant talking about what do we need to do to deal with that budget crisis. That what we need to do is we need to renegotiate the 10-year CBAC agreement and have a governor who's willing to do that. So I'm helping with policy in terms of making sure we're prepared for that after the election.
We are out of time. David Stemerman, Joe Ganim, nice to have you gentlemen on the program. And we'll see you again on election night, perhaps even before that.